stuff. Just my luck, counting on too much stuff. Well, it's way too much. You're never gonna get enough. You can pile it high, but you'll never be satisfied. Running back can't score till he gets a million more. Quarterback can't pass. Owner wants his money back. Too much stuff. Too much stuff. You know you can't get a grip when you're slipping in all that stuff. Women ever which way messing with my mind. You know I fall in love every day 3 or 4 times. Too much stuff. Oh, too much stuff. It'll mess you up, fooling with too much stuff. Yeah, too much stuff. Too much stuff. Oh, too much stuff. Too much stuff. You'll never get enough, 'cause there's just too much stuff. You know you can hurt yourself fooling with too much stuff. Yeah, it'll tear you down fooling with all that stuff. That's a lot of stuff.
That's a whole lot of stuff.
There's just too much of it, man. Yeah, I know.
There's more stuff.
Is that your stuff?
Then you know what to do.
That's a lot of stuff.
I have hurt myself.
It might be too much.
Seriously hurt myself.
Mr. Lane?
Hi, Eric.
Hey, Councilman Dingfelder is working on his laptop. He's remote today and he has a technical issue, so I'm going to ask Andre to work with him. But he wanted to let Chair know that he was listening, but he wasn't connected yet.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was a bachelor. I was certified. Nobody could tie me down, and many have tried. But here you go, turn me on like a light. I gotta have you, woman, both day and night. What you gonna do? Now that you got me, woman, and I got you. Smooth cat burglar, you stole my heart. Now I pray every day and night that we're never apart. You got me hanging on the line. Oh baby, you got me standing around crying. What you gonna do? Now that you got me, woman, and I got you. What you gonna do? Now that you got me, woman, and I got you. Oh baby, where I want to be, right next to you. There's no place that I'd rather be than in love with you.
Good morning, citizens of Tampa and board members. The Community Redevelopment Agency for April 8th, 2021 will now come to order. This morning we'll have the invocation by none other than our, what I call a personal friend, a person I've known a long time, Reverend Willie Dixon. He's been a person who's been fighting over in the East Tampa area and throughout the city of Tampa for many, many years, trying to bring in development, being a good person to where he's working with the Prison Crusades, trying to help those who can't help themselves. Do we have Mr. Dixon online? I see him in the kiosk. Mr. Dixon, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You stand?
I do bring each of you greetings and blessings in the magnificent name of Jesus. And I thank you for the job that you are doing and how you serve the people of your districts. So as we pray to Almighty God, we ask for wisdom and knowledge and understanding as you rule this day and every day. We ask for your divine protection to be upon each of these members of this council and everyone that serve in government. For we know that we are living in trying times, but Lord, we know that you are our protector. And Father, I pray that you bless each of their family members and their loved ones so they can have peace of mind when they come before the people. And Father, I ask that the people, when they come before this council, Lord God, that they will give their respect as if they're standing before Almighty God. Father, we know that these men, Lord God, they love you because they don't make the kind of salary that many of the people that stand before them, but they serve out of the dedication and the loyalty. They want to make Tampa a great city and keep it great all over this nation. So, Father, I pray that you will just be with them this day and every day. And, Father, as David would say, give them a clean heart, a right spirit, Lord God, as they rule this day. And, Father, I pray that the words of Henry Torby, who said, if there ever was a cause, if there ever should be a cause worthy of the sacrifice of the human race, let everyone feel ashamed to die until they've done something to make Tampa the greatest city in this United States. And Father, and we'll be careful to give you the praise and the glory. It's in the name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all of those that follow him, and all of the people that believe in faith. Say amen and amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Vieira. Dingfelder. Maniscalco. Carlson.
Here.
Citro.
Here.
Miranda.
Here.
And Goods.
Here, I think
There's a
Mr.
physical
Dingfelder-
quorum present.
Madam Clerk, I think Mr. Dingfelder is having some technical difficulties this morning, what I was told by the technician. So hopefully he'll be joining us soon to get that cleared up. Mr. Massey, you give us the public comments, rules, and regulations, sir?
Yes, sir. This meeting of the City of Tampa Community Redevelopment Agency is being held during the COVID-19 state of emergency. At this time, the meetings of the Community Redevelopment Agency are being conducted with a live in-person quorum of the CRA present in City Council chambers. However, in response to the COVID-19 restrictions, members of the public are encouraged to participate virtually through video or audio teleconferencing, referred to by Florida statutes and rules as communications media technology. These meetings are held in accordance with the emergency rules of procedure as adopted by CRA resolution. The public and citizens of the City of Tampa are able to watch, listen, or view this meeting on cable TV, Spectrum Channel 640, or Frontier Channel 15, or via the internet, www.tampa.gov/livestream. Members of the public are able to participate virtually in the CRA public meeting by using what is referred to by Florida statutes and rules as communication media technology, or by the following alternative methods: by sending written comments by internet or web, by sending written comments by email, by sending written comments by U.S. mail, by speaking remotely during the public comment section of this meeting with the use of communication media technology remotely, or participating by using communication media technology made available at Old City Hall. Those individuals that do not have access to those modes or devices at home. All written comments for CRA matters must be received no later than 24 hours prior to the meeting in order to be distributed timely to CRA members. and made part of the record. Registration for speaking remotely must also be requested at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. Public comments made remotely or in person using CMT will be heard at the start of the meeting at the direction of the CRA and should not exceed 3 minutes unless expressly allowed by the Community Redevelopment Agency. Written comments received by mail or email will be distributed to members of the Community Redevelopment Agency and will also be included in the permanent record of the meeting. All public comments timely received by mail, email, or by remote participation via communication media technology will be afforded equal consideration as if the public comments were made in person within the chambers. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. We'll go to section 2, item 1, Ms. Malone.
Before we
Oh,
go to
sorry,
staff
public
reports,
comment.
we
I'm
do
sorry,
need to
public
see if there's
comment. I'm
someone
sorry about
downstairs for public comment, I think.
Public comment, I'm sorry about that. We have anybody downstairs?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Connie Burton, chairperson of the East Tampa CRA. And the reason I want to come this morning is because of what I see as a continuation of the inability of the board to be able to move on agenda items in which they feel is of the utmost importance. And in having conversation within our community, we continue to stress the needs for, of course, affordable housing within that essential, within the guidelines for essential workers. So affordable housing is being used, funds get gutted, and then the people that really need the resources and the help do not get help. And so I wanted to make it very clear that when I'm talking about affordable housing, I am talking about people within that job descriptions of, say, maybe a Walmart worker, a store clerk, a CNA, and others that have do with real sincerity work very, very hard to hope one day they can get the American dream. Another thing that we continue to dial down on at our CRA meeting is the fact that we would like to utilize the resources that has been appropriated. We hear about these line items, just like this morning, how number 11 is on your agenda is being advanced. I've had discussions with some of you all saying that housing rehab is a must. Either you want to retain the citizens of that community there, or either there's an attempt by sleight of hand to force people out of their properties because they have deteriorated to the point where they can't not get the assistance. And so while this morning what will be presented to you all is to moving $1 million from the doomed Al Barnes Park project to the Fair Oaks, which the community organized and made happen, the staff do not have the ability or the will to move toward a real program without putting demand on the board to develop its own RFP to make these things happen. It becomes questionable that if you're moving capital improvement projects along with the staff help, participation, and knowledge, then why hasn't this same staff been able to move housing programs, housing rehab program, without now it being put back in the lap of the board that we have to go out and develop an RFP because the staff is incapable of doing that? It becomes all questionable to the community.
Thank you, Ms. Burton. Anyone else?
No more speakers at this time.
No more speakers? Okay, anybody registered to speak, Madam Clerk?
No one registered to speak.
All right, we'll go to section 2, item 1, Ms. Van Loan.
Good morning, Chair, council members, and viewing public. Our first speaker this morning is John LaRocca, the CAC Chair from the Downtown CRA.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm John LaRocca, Downtown CRA's Community Advisory Committee Chairman and Representative today. I've been asked to appear to give you an update. I was last here 11 months ago, and I appreciate this new setup. It's the first time I've done this. I'm here to report on a number of things that have been important to the Downtown CRA. Since our last presentation in general to you from the committee's the committee's perspective is that we have contributed to and supported the purchase of the Army-Navy store intended for affordable housing to be developed, we hope, at some point in the near future. We've continued to support cultural assets for COVID-19 retrofit grants. 1.8 million has been awarded to major public assets downtown. We participated and held a public workshop through the consultants working on Ashley Drive project improvements. We had full discussion with public invited, and many good ideas came out, primarily with the concern of protecting pedestrian access and to improve safety in the grid network within downtown Tampa. We've discussed and have supported new grant programs, current facade programs for downtown, revitalization of vacant current buildings. Obviously the last year and a half has been difficult, but there are people, as one can see walking around downtown, there's still a lot of activity and a lot of interest in downtown, certainly from the tourist sector, which is I find quite surprising, but we're very concerned about making sure that the historical core of the downtown area is maintained and presents itself well, and we, through our community redevelopment opportunities, believe we can support that ongoing. We've done vanilla shell rehabilitations, restaurant food services grants, business enhancement micro grants, all part of the discussion to assist during this time. We've reviewed and supported the Straz's, the Performing Arts Center's master plan expansion and potential budget impact that the CRI would be considered to look at. We think that's a gem for the community, for the entire city. Certainly being located in the central business district and in our CRA, we wholeheartedly support that venue and will continue to do so as information is presented to us. We support and have continue to offer input on the Kid Mason Recreation Center, and we get updates on its progress. One of the most important things that have come up recently is a downtown public safety plan that the advisory committee feels very strongly about. We're supporting a pilot program that will encourage additional policing certain hours on bicycles and in modified abilities to address the concerns that we have beyond normal police protection. We are ongoing and regularly studying monthly financials and looking forward to future projects on a continuing basis as we analyze those budget numbers. One of the things that we've been talking about is beginning the discussion on the need for updating the strategic action plan for downtown. It hasn't been updated in many years. Obviously, downtown has changed tremendously. I've been active as an urban planner and worker in the downtown area for most of my career. We believe it's time, with Water Street Tampa developing the way it is, what's happened with the Riverwalk, that we need to look at our overall action plan and the initiatives that need to be updated. I thank you for this opportunity to present. Look forward to continued conversation at CSC meetings. On issues important to downtown, we meet on the first Tuesday of every month. Our times have fluctuated between 5:30 and 6 o'clock recently, and we obviously will post them accordingly. We meet at the Tampa Municipal Office Building for anyone who wishes to join us and participate in the conversation both virtually and in person. And we'll be sure to get anyone the information. I'm going to leave, if there's any specific questions, I'll leave them. I'll answer what I can now, but I'll leave it to the staff presentation subsequent to my presentation for any more details. Any questions?
Any questions, gentlemen? Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Rudoka, for your service.
Thank you.
Item number 2, staff reports. Ms. Bellone?
May I, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. There's one thing, I didn't have it right here with me, but I want to make a quick presentation. I'm sorry. There's a PowerPoint presentation I thought you might be interested in. We pulled this together here in the last day or so, and I want to thank, if I can, have that pulled up and get myself set here and situated. I want to thank Andy Mikulski with the Urban Design. He's the Urban Design Coordinator with the Development and Growth Management Department. I want to just give you a quick project as of today on what's going on downtown. You've seen buildings, you may know many of them, and again, I apologize for popping up here again, but if I may go through this project list. And I understand all I have to do is hit the right button. Can someone help me here?
Staff can help. We have it on the
Okay,
screen.
little technical difficulties here. Oh, here we go.
It had a lag.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Down.
Okay, the first item, and I'll go through this very quickly, is the AER tower, the proposed AER tower next to the Straws on the site that has recently been completed with the removal of the library annex, the Cass and Tyler Street improvements, and the land that is now ready to be built on. That project is, as you can see on the note, is waiting on plan submittal. We're hopeful that this will move forward soon. It's 275 residential units with almost 16,000 square feet of retail at the base. The project known as Riverwalk Place on the Riverwalk is, I believe, has gone through a revision and a revised plan and is in for permitting. It will be addressed at 102 Whiting Street on Ashley. 230 condos, 222 hotel rooms, 3,800 square feet of retail on the Riverwalk. Building plans, as you can see on the note, are under review. This project was designed by Architectonica, the same architect designing the project across the river, Manor Riverwalk. Madera Tampa is the apartment complex directly east of the Straz. The properties at 160 West Tyler, 353 apartments, 12,000 square feet of retail. It's under construction. Hopefully will be completed by the end of the year. The Henry at 102 East Tyler is actually 188 apartment units, but they're being designed primarily to cater to students, and the closest proximity of a university is the University of Tampa, but it is a great piece of architecture. They're installing a piece of art at the lower level. It will add further to the activity and excitement downtown with an apartment of this scale and student living downtown. Spring Hill Suites is a hotel proposed. The address here is 1105 Tampa Street and Harrison. That hotel is, during the pandemic, some hotels have had some issues with getting out of the ground, although others have proceeded. This one is waiting on plan submittal, but we hope to see that become a reality within the year. Edition Hotel, this is in Water Street, Tampa, but again, a major contribution to the Central Business District. This particular hotel has been topped out. It is 149,000 square feet of mixed hotel and condominium uses. Hotels at the base, condos are above, and that's expected to be open by the end of the year. Heron Apartments, the first apartments have been rented. This again in Water Street. The building in the left of the picture is the easternmost building. I believe that building is where the occupancy is occurring. I don't have the specifics, but that hopes to be completed by the end of the year with a food market and other retail at the base. 1001 Water Street is an office building, 375,000 square feet with 12,000 square feet at the base. Under construction, expected completion by the end of the year. 1011 Cumberland, another apartment building, 388 apartments, 13,000 square feet of retail under construction. Again, this is in the first phase of Water Street, completed by the end of the year. 1050 Water Street is the largest of the apartment complexes in one building. 511 apartments, 30,000 square feet of retail, again topped out, estimated completion late 2021. And that's it. Sorry for having to jump back in, but thank you for your time. I thought you would be interested in that.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, gentlemen? All right, we'll move on to item number 2.
Good morning again, Michelle Van Loan. I'd like to bring up Jesus Nino, the CRA manager for Drew Park in West Tampa, to begin our monthly staff report.
Good morning.
Good morning. If you can bring up the presentation, please. I just want to say that we continue to have very productive meetings over at Barksdale for the West Tampa Community Advisory Committee. And thank you, Mr. Citro, for your visit to the last meeting. You were very welcomed, and individuals from the community appreciated that. These meetings are hybrid and in-person meetings. We've been having very successful meetings with full quorums, plus a few individuals there in addition, so that's great. I'm starting to become very impressed by the CAC in West Tampa. The reason why I say that is they're starting to really learn the community redevelopment plan they have for the area, their strategic action plan, and they're starting to dig into Chapter 163 of the Florida Statute, Part 3. So they're a very educated group, so that makes my job a lot easier so they can stay in line with what they're supposed to be doing. We're also very proud that we have a new arts subcommittee. We've only had one meeting, and we're looking forward to see what kind of productive projects they come up with. As far as indirect activities, the Main Street Corridor study, that's progressing forward smoothly with Mr. Frank Hall and Randy Gores as the project managers for that. Last week, we actually did a walking tour of Main Street again, just to look at the alleyways, the back of the buildings, side areas, and talk to the members of the community. So hopefully in May, they have a draft report ready to present. Other indirect activities, TICO still continues their projects to extend power over to the West River development. This is all being funded by the developer of the West River projects. Construction still continues also for the 3 7-story apartment buildings over at West River. So you can see the pictures there. They're going up very quickly, especially when you drive down 275, you can see them. Other projects, the Foundry NoHo, it's a multifamily project. It's 198 units. It has a precast concrete parking garage that's popping up quickly, as you can see from the rendering and from the actual construction. It's moving quickly. It's right next door to the JC, the Jewish Community Center there. This is hopefully to be completed by 2022 early. Other projects, we have the NoHo Square. It's a 246-unit apartment complex over by Rome and West Gray Street. That's also progressing smoothly. They do have Rome Avenue blocked off there for a few months now, but it doesn't seem to be deterring the community from moving around the area pretty smoothly. Tenants still continue to move into the Mary Bethune apartment complex. Then also the Tampa Veterinary Hospital in Howard, that's moving forward too, and every time I drive by, construction is just changing every single week. Then we have the phase 2 of the green spine track. That's almost complete. I walked it the other day to get a little bit of exercise, so it's being heavily used now, even though it's not completely complete just yet. Also, the 35 million Cypress Street outfall stormwater project, that's moving, that's continuing forward as well as construction. Then we have the Goddard School, that's still under construction on Kennedy. It's not the fastest construction, but it is progressing forward. That's it for West Tampa. Any questions?
Any questions, gentlemen? Thank you, sir.
Okay. Move forward. Okay, we have Drew Park next. The Tampa Bay Linear Park construction, that's complete. We do have 2 signs that are being installed. They're not going to have any language just yet. We're still having community meetings with some of the individuals that have a lot of history in the area, plus with city staff, for instance, Dennis Fernandez and some of his partners, to help us draft up some historic language to put on those signs, and also just to acquire more history of Drew Park that we can maybe put in future signs in the area. After we're get the strategic action plan complete, then we'll have different projects that we'll be working on, and some of that language will be very useful. Oops. Yep, and we have a sidewalk project. It's basically complete over in Hesperides. There's still some finishing touches that are being done to that. We're going to put down some sod and just fix up some of the little areas that weren't completely finished. Then we have our strategic action plan update, which is coming a later item today. That's with VHB Inc. Our consultants was Neil Stralo, so we'll get into that later. But we're extremely proud of that plan, and hopefully once it gets approved, we can get to work on it. Then some of the little, then we also have a fence grant that just got approved in one of the buildings, the business owners out there, ATEC Consulting. Oops. ATEC Consulting, they erected a new fence, and it's very beautiful. Then some of the indirect activities, we just have more site beautification and some new tenants moving into the stadium center over on Del Mabry. That concludes for Drew Park. Any questions?
Any questions, gentlemen? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Valerie Farrell, CRA Manager for Downtown Channel District, Tampa Heights Riverfront, and Central Park. If we could go to the presentation, thank you. In downtown, I won't repeat a lot of what my CAC Chair, Mr. LaRocca, presented, but I will give you a few additional updates. As he mentioned, our CAC has heard a presentation on a public safety plan, and it will be presented as a pilot. We've had discussions with the Neighborhood Association with DRANA, as well as Tampa Police Department. Captain Owen with District 3, he's our team lead, and I can tell you we've got a gem there because he has certainly brought some creative solutions to the issues we're having in downtown as well as our surrounding neighborhoods. The pilot program will be initiated for about 90 days to address some of the negative street behaviors that are happening in downtown. These are items associated with loud music, engine and exhaust noise, street racing, and even some bicycle operations that tend to be aggressive towards our pedestrians, and even some parking lot parties, and in the late to early morning hours, some illicit activities in our park areas. So we have discussed an operation that would allow the police department to bring some additional traffic units and bike units up to a maximum of 40 hours per month, as well as adding some additional bike equipment to the patrol officers that are assigned to downtown. This is a pretty effective way to communicate and deter the negative street behaviors that are happening, and also increase the quality of life for our visitors and our residents downtown. So this is a pilot program. It's going to be a minimal expense to our CAC, and we already have community policing funds set aside for this type of thing. So we're excited to roll this out. It's going to be flexible for the police department to manage with the staff they have, and we'll see how it works in about 90 days, and we're going to be happy to report that back to the board as well. Some indirect activities. Many of you have seen the fencing around the small space in Gaslight Square Park, and this is a project by the Downtown Partnership. They're actually having a soft opening this weekend with a grand opening next Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. I hope you all are RSVPing for that. This is a pilot project also to last 3 months, where the partnership is activating this park in a different way with lighting, tables, chairs, food, and even some live music. They're going to have quick food service, grab-and-go style, prepackaged, and they're going to rotate a breakfast service for about 45 days, and then they're going to shift to a dinner service for the remaining 45 days. So they're partnering with Metropolitan Ministries to be staffing this and providing also once-a-month homeless services to the area. They're also going to be releasing surveys to get feedback on the use of the space. I think it's very well thought out, and the partnership has taken the time to set up this small section as a pilot, so I think we should all take the opportunity to go and experience it and provide feedback. It's a different way to use the park spaces we have downtown. Another indirect activity, we have a great partnership with the Friends of the Riverwalk. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19 and so many other activities, the Riverfest has been canceled. However, please look forward to the 4th of July Boat Parade and Blessing of the Fleet. It's going to be an exciting event, much like we did for Super Bowl. We had a great show of event and support on the river, so please plan to attend that. Also, I think we could be a great partner in showing our support by doing things like the cleanup in partnership with Keep Tampa Bay Beautiful. They did something on March 27th. You can certainly reach out to Mary Beth Williams and do something similar with your organizations and help the Riverwalk. Tony Mulkey is our representative from the city, and we certainly appreciate all the work he does. And also, just understand that Friends of the Riverwalk is a one-woman show, Mary Beth Williams and her board, so please show support where you can. This is an exciting event that happened last month. The Lights on Tampa revealed some permanent installations that the CRA supported, the Bio Bridge under the Harbor Island Bridge, and also the lights under the Channelside Drive Tunnel. So in the years past, the program would produce large-scale family-friendly events. This year, due to COVID, the program was promoted as a self-guided tour. To complement the tour, the evenings of March 5th and 6th featured cultural programming around the convention center. Music on the Riverwalk included local jazz groups, Katara Trio, Fred Johnson and Michael Ross Trio, dancers from HCC Ybor City, and the lighting designer, Chris Jones, enhanced the dance experience with lights. The program also launched a photo contest through social media. This month, the public will vote on the top, and the winner will receive a Pirate Water Taxi annual pass. Partners and sponsors of the program included the City of Tampa, the National Endowment for the Arts, Public Art Alliance, Uppercase Inc., Pirate Water Taxi, HCC Improvisational Dance. The self-guided tour lives on and features the new Lights on Tampa installations as well as significant works of art in downtown. Everyone, please take the opportunity to visit these installations, and if you don't know where they are, you can go to lightsontampa.org/map. And I really think that you should take the opportunity to see these at night. Of course, you heard from my chair that the Heron at Water Street was open. The East Tower is welcoming its first residents. It is a magnificent building. We were able to tour it just before it got its final CO, and I really think it's a beautiful addition to downtown. The quality of life is truly significant there. And to add to that, the Friends of the Riverwalk, of course, has been a wonderful, wonderful addition in understanding and recognizing our historical figures in the city, and you can see the items here identified in blue. Those bronze Statues were temporarily relocated, and now they are put back in their permanent place next to the Heron Tower, so you can see them directly to the east side of the building. They've been relocated and put in their permanent place. So we're excited to see them put back into their permanent home, connecting the Riverwalk. Are there any questions on downtown, or can I move on to Channel District?
Any questions, gentlemen? Ms. Carlson, you recognized.
Yeah, I'll try to make this short. First of all, I want to thank the Downtown Partnership for addressing the homeless issue in Gaslight Park. You all remember that there was a lot of controversy a few years ago when the last mayor attacked the groups trying to serve the homeless, and also took out the benches so that homeless and also business people downtown couldn't sit there. I appreciate this administration working with the Downtown Partnership to try to come up with a hybrid solution that addresses both issues, and working with Metropolitan Ministries, of course, is a good thing. Also, I'd like to thank and congratulate Robin Nye for her persistence on public art, and thank you to Mayor Castor for supporting her efforts. And lastly, just a quick question. I know Jesse Stelnick and Linda Salsena are working to try to bring Kylie Gardens back. Have you all started any conversation with them yet?
Interestingly enough, I am having those conversations with Robin Nye and Melissa Davies on how we can activate and partner for Kylie Gardens. We have talked about that in our public safety discussion. I think there's some concerns with just the activities that are happening in Kylie Gardens now. So the conversations are happening. It's a very early stage. I think there's a need for an art plan to begin. And since the CRA staff needs to have that conversation, we're in a very early stage at this point.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Thank you.
All right, moving on to Channel District. As you know, we are underway in the very early stages of our CRP SAP, that's Community Redevelopment Plan and Strategic Action Plan update for those that are tired of seeing our acronyms everywhere. The consultant, SNME, has gathered data analysis on much of the inventory for Channel District in order to prepare the conditions assessment of the area. This includes utilities, infrastructure, lighting, and the public realm. Our public engagement plan is taking shape, and we're getting ready for our first community meeting to be set tentatively for May 13th. Get ready for those announcements to be coming out soon, and social media posts and emails will be distributed hopefully in the next week or so. We're also setting stakeholder interviews. Seen here is a draft of our website using Social Pinpoint, which is a customizable community engagement platform. It has a variety of online tools that will improve our public engagement in an online format, as well as providing detailed data and responses. Also, Channelside Drive is still under construction. Not much to report other than phase 1 and 2 are on track. We have sidewalks being formed and curbs are being poured. The graphic here shows that there's still work to be continued all the way down around past the roundabout. So stay tuned, that we certainly have our website still up and active, so we just want to make sure that everyone knows to stay safe on Channelside Drive, and also to remind everyone it is not advisable to speed through a construction zone. Those traffic fines are not fun, and we don't want anyone to get hurt while going through that area. Also, thank you to everyone who attended the Madison Street Park grand opening. Even though the project has been complete for a little while, COVID-19 delayed our grand opening, but it was a successful event. It was well attended, and thanks to those who made it, and a special thanks to Sharisha Hills, Peg Boers, and the Parks and Recreation team, because it is a beautiful facility, and we greatly appreciate their help in making this happen. Are there any questions on the Channel District before I move on to Tampa Heights?
Any questions? You may continue.
Okay. Tampa Heights, we are supporting the Tampa Heights parking discussion. Although these are studies that are happening outside of our CRA, the recent parking and curbside management study was completed by Kimley Horn on behalf of the partnership for the areas of Franklin, Tampa Street, and Florida Avenue, and City Parking Operations is also evaluating the residential parking around the Armature Works area. Our role is to be an advocate for businesses and residents that are neighbors to the district to make sure we can see those improvements are made, and working with property owners as needed to increase shared parking access for the community. And that's all I have for Tampa Heights. Are there any questions?
Any questions, gentlemen? Thank you.
Last, I have Central Park. Of course, everyone knows the Meacham Farm is open. They are open on Saturdays and Sundays, and I do have to report that they have chicken feed now. So I want to make sure you all know, if you have backyard chickens, if they're permitted, of course, please feel free to go to the market, get your goodies, get sunflowers, veggies, chickens, eggs, honey, and bread, and look for the hashtag Eat Like a Local and search for them on social media, Meacham Farm.
Great.
Any questions?
Any questions, gentlemen? Thank you.
And last, just to report that the cultural assets, we have concluded all of the applications. We have awarded, or allocated, excuse me, $1.8 million for downtown out of the $2 million you set aside. Channel District, you have allocated $738,000 out of the $740 set aside. I think this program was very successful in what you intended it to do, which is set those permanent improvements for COVID-19 retrofits to allow our cultural assets to reopen safely. And we're very happy to report that those improvements are now underway. And that concludes my announcements, unless there are any questions.
Any questions, gentlemen? Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, everyone. I'm Brenda Thrower. I'm the interim manager for the East Tampa CRA, and I'm here to give you the monthly report for East Tampa. We'll start here with the strategic action plan. As y'all all know, every month they come and give you the update of where we're at with the strategic action plan. Last month, we concluded the neighborhood walking tours. So they wrapped up in March, and as we looked at the attendance, we had about 140 residents participating in the tours over 4 weekends. In addition to that, we continued the public opinion surveys, which
turned it on.
Pardon me? I'm sorry. I heard a voice.
Go ahead, Mr. Someone needs to mute their mic, but you go ahead and continue.
Thank you. The public opinion surveys were continued. They went through, we took the hard copy surveys in. I'm sorry, I keep hearing a
Could
voice.
someone mute their mic, please? Okay, Mr. Rowe, we'll try one more time.
I'm
May
sorry.
continue.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Thank you. The surveys were extended through March 31st, but we decided to actually continue them through April 5th for anyone who wanted to participate online. And what we were seeing about when I did this report, we had about mainly residential folks that were responding to them, with 21% business and 20% youth. Those numbers may shift just a little bit as we took in more surveys over the weekend. Marketing and communications, we continue to engage the community. We have a very active website, the weareeasttampa.com. I wanted to share some statistics with you. We've had increased activity on that with about 1,400 unique visitors, almost 2,400 total site session visitors, and the new email platform that we've been able to create has nearly 1,200 contacts on it to date. That's more than doubled since January. So, and the average open rate for the email blast that we've been sending out is 24%. The consultant will be giving a community input update at next Tuesday's partnership meeting. So a lot of these statistics will be shared with the community at that time. The next step, of course, is, at this point for the consultant, is to really work with the agencies, the different departments, and get information gathered from all the projects and things that are already planned for East Tampa. Next, I'll just show you a snapshot of this. This is just an example of one of the email blasts that we sent out through the new platform we've been using. Next is the committees. The committees have been very active, and again, we have a robust meeting calendar that we've been really promoting and getting out to not only the CAC partnership, but neighborhood leaders, so there's been more participation. Here's just a flavor of some of the subjects that are being discussed at the committee level and some of the projects that they're working on. Also, at the partnership meeting on the agenda, the committees are listed there, so all of them give a report at the partnership meeting and have an opportunity for that. Moving right along, I'll just talk about some of the activities of some of the more active committees. The Aesthetics and Beautification Committee is working on several projects, including looking at doing an art mural on the building at 22nd and Lake. They're looking at even some themed art that they'd like to put in, the Kenty themed art on streets and sidewalks on 22nd Street Gateway. They've talked about planters, decorative planters, and where we can strategically put those. That's also been included in the SAP. There's been information shared with the consultant, so that there's more information on that. They're also working with the neighborhood leaders and the city's public art committee on the roundabout. The 34th Street roundabout is still a project that's it's on our agenda to do, or on our budget to do. The chair of the committee, Ms. Carol Ransom, will be serving on the art selection committee, and that date for that has already been scheduled this month, so we'll be having that meeting coming up. And of course, they're also exploring ways to just tell East Tampa's story. They're looking at the historic landmark placards as another project that they'd like to embark upon as we move forward. Economic Development Committee, another active committee. A lot of stuff is falling under this. We have the building, of course, on 22nd and Lake. They want to use that or reprogram that for a community purpose. It is going to require some renovation, so we've already met with the building department and a couple other folks about getting an estimate of what we need to do to that building to really get it activated. In addition, our real estate department has been given a green light to move forward to acquiring adjacent properties along that block, especially the one that is directly south of it. So they're working with negotiating those land sales. And then a new program that was initiated, it's actually on your agenda today, is this Youth Leadership Academy that was brought forward. We've worked with the CAC, and our legal department has looked at it, and we're ready to move forward with an approval today to write an RFP to get that program off the ground. And there's more that will be shared on that. And then, of course, they're always looking for economic opportunities for business and workers with upcoming projects. Any way we can connect folks to the local workforces is definitely one of their goals. Moving right along, Housing Committee. Housing has been very active. And again, when I say active, we're attending all these meetings, and we're seeing how the participation in the meetings are growing. So the last Housing Committee was really well attended and with some very great folks around the table. Denise Pate is the housing chair for that committee. And of course, they're looking at affordable housing assistance programs. But right now, they focused on really getting 2 programs up and running and actually improved, which is they're moving the down payment assistance program, where they've approved the sliding scale, which is now implemented. And just recently, they streamlined the housing counseling service requirement that was part of that assistance program, and that's moving forward. So they sort of checked that box, and they are now moving on to the owner-occupied rehab grant program. Right now, the RFP, we are working on getting some RFPs shared with us from other communities, and that will be our next task with the committee to work out an RFP for that program. And then another thing they talked about was kind of creating this Angie's List, so to speak, I call it that, where you can create a directory where residents can connect with local minority-owned businesses for any kind of improvements they need to do to their homes. So. And last but not least, we have the Land Use Committee. They are getting active as well. This is under the chairmanship of Yvette Lewis. One of their tasks is to look at CRA-owned properties to explore, the future redevelopment opportunities in East Tampa. They're also looking at the tree trimming program. It's falling under them so that they can give recommendations for improving the program's efficiency and effectiveness as we're nearing a year of that program being launched. And they're also looking at also promoting minority-owned licensed contractors as service providers in the East Tampa CRA area. Moving right along, we're in the Environmental Crimes Unit. Now, I gave a little bit of a report last month, and I shared with y'all that they're going to be working on this new advertising campaign. Well, I'm proud to say that advertising campaign has been launched. If you drive around East Tampa, you will see these messages of promote, keep East Tampa beautiful and stop illegal dumping. It's on the bus stop. I didn't have a picture, I'm sorry, to share with you today of an actual bus stop, but it's a very positive message. It has a positive goal and a call to action, and that was really something that our environmental detective worked on with heart to get that implemented. Another thing we've done is our lobby out in the East Tampa CRA office. We've really started to grow outside of our door there, and we've provided a space that we can offer up for the community to put information, packets, anything that we can share with the community. Our meeting calendars are there. We actually used it as a location where you could drop off surveys recently, and it worked really, really well. I just met with the HES committee yesterday, the Health and Education and Social Services Committee, and there's a kiosk in the picture down there. They're going to look at really updating that kiosk with information about any of the programs that they're involved with, and they can share with the community. And in addition to that, our conference room has been very active as well, with not only committee meetings, but just community folks wanting to meet in there. And last but not least, we had 2 notable events in East Tampa last month. Some of you attended them. We had the American Surgical Mask Company that did the business startup, had a ribbon cutting, and also there was the Rebuilding Together Tampa Bay Community Fair that took place. So all very positive events, and that concludes my report.
Any questions, gentlemen? Ms. Thor, I have a few questions I want to ask.
Yes.
And Ms. Van Loon may want to come up because she might need to assist you with some questions. Gentlemen, I did listen to the East Tampa meeting on Tuesday. Very long meeting. Got several emails about that meeting as well, and I think I sent you gentlemen at least a copy of one of the emails. But I want to talk about the rehab program and dealing with housing. And I heard about changing the concept of the housing program to talk about streamlining. But I want to caution you that a lot of those programs, the DARE, Salita's House, and all these places, they have a hard time returning calls, and they have a hard time of getting people in the program. So that's why that East Tampa program was implemented, to help streamline some of those issues. 2 is that a lot of issues, and I look at the numbers, that we're putting people in programs and sending them to the housing counseling, but yet people come away disappointed because they don't know all the parameters of getting a house. You talk about getting a house, you talk about somebody getting financing. There are other issues that come with the housing program. So I want to caution you to look at, before you start cutting different ideas with your housing program as far as relates to the East Tampa program, make sure we vet it to make sure these other outlets that you're asking to do work can do the work. Because I've been finding out they have not been able, and I had that same conversation with Ms. Carol Post in reference to that. So I want you to be cautious of that by just ending a program, because some of those programs aren't giving all of the information that Ms. LaTarsha Hicks gives in the East Tampa program. I've watched that program. It's very intense. It gives a lot of information how people can maintain, sustain, and keep their home. The only component it doesn't have, which I think hurts it, is I think you need to put a portion in there to where people are able to understand what they can qualify for. When you go to a class, your hope and dream is to own a house or a condo. But you just go to a class and you walk away, and then you look at your numbers, you don't have a great success rate because people can't get to the end of the football field to get the touchdown. So we have to put some other things in front of that so they'll be able to understand where they need to be, how they need to be able to grow and be able to get the housing they need. So I'm hoping that we kind of look at that before we make final decisions with the CAC and really look at the overall aspect of housing. As it relates to rehab, I know that's a big concern. I've talked about that from day one on council. I'm looking to make a motion at the end, everyone's looking at the interest money to transfer more money over from the interest into rehab to boost that program. I think that's needed, so I'm going to be making a motion as it relates to that. The action plan. I saw Mr. Rowe talked about the action plan. I'm going to make a motion at the end as it relates to your action plan, because and we spoke about this on Wednesday. Your office is very busy, and you're very busy, Ms. Van Loon, and we have to have somebody, who understands the action plan to carry out the assignment of the action plan. because I don't want to have an action plan and it sits there like it's done for years and nobody can carry out the dream of the folks and the residents. So I want to make a motion, make sure we have a person in place who understands development, real estate, whatever it needs to take to be able to move the strategic action plan once it's completed, and I believe it's going to be completed toward August. So that needs to happen. We can start looking at that now versus waiting to August to move. So that way, we have somebody in place. We can start moving to make sure when it's done, this person is ready to look at point A, B, C, and D to get us to the finish line on the action plan. I don't want to waste money again having an action plan and we're not moving, because a lot of folks on your CAC are not knowledgeable. Not saying they can't be knowledgeable, but don't know real estate. They don't know economic development. They want to be good citizens, help to try to bolster the community, but they just don't know the nuts and bolts to make it move the way it needs to move. So that's what I'm looking forward to on that. I'm looking to see, I know Ms. Thor's been doing the best job she can, but I want to know where you at with your manager to hire your manager. Is there any update on that as well?
Good morning, Michelle Van Loan. I'm going to respond in reverse order just to get the easy ones off first. So I do intend to have a new East Tampa CRA manager in place by June 1st. They will be starting sometime in the last 2 weeks of May, once we've got a final agreement with our HR department. So once I have that confirmation that they will be starting, a memo will go out to CRA board and then the East Tampa CAC and community announcing that. We also hope to have by about June 1st the new communications person online also, so that we'll be fully staffed. Regarding the action plan, we will come back over the summer with a job description for a person that we can hire starting with the October 1st fiscal year that would coincide with the strategic action plan being adopted by the CRA board in order to move forward. And we will make that a flexible position that for the first year or two, as need in East Tampa, we allocate the percentage of which CRAs pay for which personnel. So as that gets rolling, we would be able to then utilize that person in other areas as needed over the years, and we can make that flexible from year to year. So we will come back to you with a job description for such a person. On the owner-occupied, we have been working with HCD, so we have had some movement in a couple of areas. With the current owner-occupied program, HCD came back to us and asked us if we could also help. They have a gap in the exterior of the home, and where the Fed funds can only do the interior, they asked if we could use our funds for the exterior. I did sign off on that. Mary Ellen Vigetto with Housing is actually going back, since we approved the program at the end of 2019, to go back to any East Tampa residents who did receive the owner rehab loan and grant to see if they needed exterior help, so that we can go back and get them that help now instead of waiting. Ms. Denise Pate, who has been working very hard, she spent the last 2 months working with HCD to understand the requirements of the federal program so that we could look at how do we set up our own program that is much more accessible by our low-income residents in East Tampa and our affordable housing residents in East Tampa. She just presented that report back at our Tuesday meeting, and Brenda will have an RFP for them so that we can go out for that new program. So they will look at that in May, and then we'll bring that back to you. So we are making progress on some of these programs. Lastly, I was going to bring it up under new business because of the motion made this past Tuesday at the East Tampa CRA meeting, that regarding the housing and counseling, what we realized is that when East Tampa passed it, the down payment assistance grants, our residents who get the money from the CRA are also getting, and it's being stacked on top of the federal program. And so they are going through 2 counseling services. So the issues that you brought up, if our counseling partners are not being responsive and are not being effective, we will need to deal with and address that with our housing, and we'll make sure to talk to them about that and follow up on any issues with that. But our residents are being asked to go through 2 sets of educational programs, both the one with the 4 counseling services and the additional one with East Tampa. One of the catalysts for this discussion was also that HCD is no longer in a position to provide that additional set of training, and they came back after comparing the educational programs between what Latasha was providing and the requirements of the HUD program that was going through our counseling services, and our housing people felt that what was the actual classes and content provided through our counseling services covered those same basic to create a good, solid homeowner who understands what they're getting into. Again, if there are issues in delivering that service, we will address those with our housing partners.
Thank you, Mr. I just want to make sure, when people go to these classes, again, they're in their hopes and dreams of getting a home. And when they finish the class, it's like, well, where do I go to next? So it needs to be a point to where they understand that they're coming in the door. Well, who's the lenders? Who's the people I can talk to see where I qualify? These other steps need to be addressed, and I don't think they're being addressed. So I think when you redo your program, especially your East Tampa program, it needs to be a component in there so people know where to go and they're not lost. And then you say, well, no one's getting any houses. Well, they need houses because they don't know who to go to apply with. They don't know what their debt ratio should be. They don't know a lot of the things. Just saying going to a counselor, I think the class is 4 hours. If you're going to go outsource it, it's not like the East Tampa class, whereas it was more intense. And I don't have an issue about streamlining it, but I have a new issue that we're not being able to get them to the finish line because we're not offering that service. And if we're going to do a housing program and with grant money we have, it needs to be complete so people can get to the end result. So that's kind of what I'm looking for on that. My last two items, Ms. Fallon, is to talk about the roundabout. I know that Ms. Murray Holmes has been meeting with the Neighborhood Association on the city side, and I want to make sure that this committee or whatever, that the Neighborhood Associations are involved in this process with this roundabout. Those neighborhoods many, many years ago wanted the roundabouts, so I want to make sure that their voices are heard through this process with Ms. Robin Knight, who's been doing a great job throughout the city. I give Mr. Dingfelder, when he was out there doing the tours, people talked about that. We want that beautification that's going to uplift the community. People will come into East Tampa, they see beautification, they want to live there, they want to fix their houses up, and that's a key catalyst of a community, making it beautified. So I want to make sure that we're conscious of that. And lastly, I know there's been some resignations on the CAC board. Are we going to go through that process now to where we now put the hat with the different neighborhoods and select those to then go to get on the board now? How are we going to work that out?
My last item under the staff reports is to bring some issues that I would like to put on the May agenda, so that we have staff reports on several items we have of unfinished business that we understand, and we're reserving that time at the May meeting so that we can get into actual processes for 4 or 5 items that CRA board needs to just put closure to, and that's one of them.
Thank you, Ms. Fallon. Anyone else? Mr. Carlson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for those comments. I agree with the things that you said. I would like to thank staff, especially Ms. Thoreau, for stepping up and leading this effort. I know it's not easy bringing everyone together, but the list of things that you all work on is important and impressive. Glad you all are reaching out and working with the community, and I know we're hitting hiccups along the way, but I appreciate everything you all are doing. I agree with Chair Goods about the interest money, and I had a conversation with Ms. Fallon about this. This is a community that has lots of needs and lots of requests, and we have money sitting in the account, and so I think we should move forward as quickly as possible to allocate that money. We shouldn't have, money's been sitting there for a long time, so we should make sure that we allocate it. Also, Chair Goods mentioned economic development. The big problem we have in Tampa, and we've seen the data on this from Tampa Bay Partnership and others, the big problem we have in Tampa is there is no economic development. Economic development doesn't exist in Tampa. In the city of Tampa, we have one economic development person, but he's mostly assigned to real estate projects. And real estate is not, in Florida, we've often called real estate development economic development, but it's not. We have to stop measuring success in economic development by real estate development. It's a part of economic development, it's an important part, but when you talk to developers, do they want us to subsidize more buildings like we've done in the past, or do they want tenants or buyers for those properties? They want buyers and tenants, and we've got to develop that. And so I agree with Chair Goods that we need to talk to people, especially in East Tampa, about economic development, but it doesn't mean gentrification and subsidizing big developers to go into East Tampa. It means building a robust community. And then when you look outside to groups like the EDC, what they do is they subsidize out-of-state companies that come here for low wages, low land price, subsidies, and low taxes. And that's not something we should be doing anyway, either. Basic marketing 101 is you can sell by differentiation or price. And price is a really tough thing. Walmart does it okay, but besides that, everybody else just about fails. We shouldn't be selling based on price. We should be selling based on the quality of our community. The other thing they do is they help companies move from one side of town to the other, which is competing with the commercial real estate people. We need robust economic development. We need thoughtful economic development, and we need to track the right numbers, and we need to move the numbers in a meaningful way. Most importantly, we need to create communities that people like living in, they enjoy living in, where their kids and grandkids can grow up to be successful and build multi-generational wealth. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Thrower, anything else? You complete your presentation? I know we threw a lot at you, but I know you've been doing a lot of hard work, Brendan. I've watched those meetings, and you and Marcus, you know, and staff, and again, you've been doing a great job. You're hanging in there, and really appreciate you. I did send out the emails to you and Ms. Fenelon that I want a discussion. You guys have a discussion with the board. They need to understand what folks are saying and understand what their role is and what the community is saying. And I just want to make sure that we have that conversation. They're getting better. The board's getting better. You have to give them their props when they're there. But we still have a few things we've got to work out so they can understand the real role of what their role is. And again, when the community's talking, you know, we got to be able to listen. Mr. Carlson, recognize.
Yes, sorry, just one other quick question. I wasn't able to sit in the last couple of meetings. But is the phone problem fixed now? Is the technology problem?
It's working good, brother.
It's good. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
It's been listening in. It's working good.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Orr.
Good morning. Let me get this mask.
Don't hurt yourself now.
Hooked on an earring.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Can you do a test?
Excuse me?
That happens every now and then. Someone
Okay.
doesn't mute their computer.
Okay.
We're ready.
Okay, great. Good morning, Courtney Orr, Ybor CRA Manager. My first item. Okay, my slides are a little off here. So we submitted a letter to the Historic Preservation Commission. We're happy that the commission determined to make 6 casitas as part of the contributing structures in Ybor. So they had previously been non-contributing, now they are contributing structures. My second item here is another activity checked off the big project list that's getting us another step closer to bringing the much anticipated 7th Avenue Archway Light project to fruition. We sent out 110 good neighbor notices and also placed 17 public notice signs along 7th Avenue to alert the community about this month's Barrio Latino Commission public hearing. To the right is an illustration of the new suspended archway lights that will be installed, hopefully starting definitely sometime this year. The community came to us seeing a dire need for a new traffic signal at the intersection of Adamo Drive and 26th Street. We did send a letter to FDOT, which they responded favorably that that intersection did meet the requirements to have a new signal, and so we look forward to the construction of it to begin fall of 2022. We hosted our 3 bi-monthly committee meetings in March, as well as our monthly CAC meeting. And there are a lot of items, we cover a lot of topics, so they're all listed here. And in the interest of time, I'd be happy to review any particular ones at the end. And also listed here is a variety of community outreach that we make on a monthly basis. We just try to keep the community as informed as possible on a variety of items. So those are listed here. And so here's some more of those community communications. We are very excited about a potential public safety partnership with the National Police Foundation. This will be addressed in the next agenda item, so I'll just leave it for Captain Owen to address. We have facilitated meetings with the parking department staff and about the potential parking rate changes in Ybor City. And I just wanted to express appreciation to Mobility's availability to us and their interest in collecting community input on this important topic. And lastly, we've celebrated yet another establishment calling Ybor City home, and we celebrated that Thursday, April the 1st. So we welcome Enjoy a Selfie in Ybor City now. Thank you. This ends my presentation.
Any questions, Joe?
Mr. Chair.
You're recognized, sir.
If I may, Ms. Orr, I'm glad to hear that the arch lights on 7th Avenue are finally, finally about to be started. I can remember talking about this way back when I believe Walter A. was president and the mayor of Ybor City, Mr. Vince Pardo, was still with the YCDC. So let's hope we can get this completed sometime soon. Thank you very much, Ms. Orr.
Anyone else? Miss Orr, maybe Miss Van Loan can come up as well. You know, I talked about beautification, and when I was on the East Tampa CAC and others who've come before me, they talked about those archways, you know, to come into a community to see something different. Do we recall what the amount that CRA paid for those archways for Ybor City?
Originally, they were an art project that was a temporary art project to celebrate the, it was a centennial celebration, very temporary. So they've been up there for 21 years, and due to safety reasons, it's important that they come down and we replace them with something that meets current code and current safety requirements. So I don't know, I can't tell you the cost that it would have been in 2000. I believe it was a donation by a husband and wife team.
Ms. Vaughn, just for FYI, if you can get with the Strategic Action Plan Committee or those folks who are doing it, you know, looking at a community, and when you drive somewhere, not seeing Slum and Blythe, when you drive in Ybor City and you see that archway, you see a difference. You see a different feel. So hopefully you can talk with the CAC committee and the Strategic Action Plan group to talk about archways coming in different areas, coming into East Tampa, showing a different look and a different light. If you can do that for me, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Michelle Van Loan. In our East Tampa budget, we do have $400,000 budgeted for archways. We're just trying to work through some of these projects. A little bit sequentially is for what's already on the books, but it is part of our next steps for our Aesthetics and Beautification Committee to start looking at that once we clear out some of these other items.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions for me, I'll turn it over to Michelle now.
Okay, Ms. Van Loan.
If we can just bring out the PowerPoint one last time. Michelle Van Loan. As I mentioned earlier, we have some issues with the CRA board that we would like to follow up on and set time so that CRA board knows that we're looking for a full discussion on these items. So I would like to place these items under staff discussions and discussion with CRA board at the May meeting. The first one is the $25 million capital request by the STRAS, and looking at that in context of the downtown planning budget. We also need to come back to you with the final scope for the request to have a, for lack of a better term at this point, a strategic action plan for the actual CRA board. We also, as mentioned earlier, we've talked about it on the side about having a new process and or evolve our process in East Tampa as to how we select members and create a process that is based partially on West Tampa, and we'll come back to you with a full report on that in May as a proposed process. And lastly, we are looking at our budget adoption process coming in over the summer. We generally have always adopted our budget at the October meeting and not by October 1st. We've been requested by Budget and Legal that we do have it adopted by October 1st. So I will come back to you next month with what that new timeline would look like so that we can have everything done by October 1st. So that would conclude our staff report for today.
Any questions, gentlemen? Ms. Venlo, I just want to make sure item number 3, that we don't make any decision with the CAC board until that comes back to this board for approval.
Yes, sir.
All right, moving on. Item number 4. Excuse me, item number 3, we have Mr. Brett Owen, TPD, correct?
And Mr. Owen, I do believe, is online.
All right.
That's correct. I'm here. The Brett Owen, Tampa Police Department. I just want to take a minute and explain kind of the involvement of TPD with the security plan and how the CompStat 360 works. It's a 360-degree view of the problems in the community, and it involves the police department, the community members, and whether it be outside entities like YCDC or code enforcement, whatever the case may be, to bring that concern full circle and resolve it. Getting the community input is very much community policing oriented. And to take a line from our purpose in the security documents, to blend capabilities of law enforcement, residents, property owners, business owners, operators, workers, and residents to address the issues. It's a pretty simple concept, but it does involve everyone and take everybody's input into making a collective agreement.
Great. Any, Mr. Chair Goods had to step out. Any questions or comments? All right. Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you very much for all you are doing. This is very important to that community, and they appreciate. I get lots of calls every time you all are active in the great work you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Van Loan, what's next on the agenda?
Item number 4 is a grant agreement for our Downtown Cultural Assets Grant Agreement. It is for, I'm sorry, this would be in Channel District for the Florida Aquarium, and they're asking for $696,123, and the cost would entirely go towards upgrading their HVAC system so that it can disinfect and increase the airflow throughout all the public spaces of the aquarium facility.
Move the resolution.
Okay, we have a motion by Member Maniscalco and a second by Member Citro. Let's do roll call.
Vieira.
Yes.
Goods. Dingfelder. Maniscalco.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
And Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried with Goods and Dingfelder being absent at vote.
And we just finished number 4, Mr. Chair. I'm handing back the gavel on number 5.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 5 is another cultural asset grant. This is for the Stageworks and Channel District. They're requesting $41,559, again, to help with some of the disinfection in the public areas and air filtration.
I will move the resolution.
So a second.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Citro, second by Mr. Maniscalco. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Vieira.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Dingfelder. Maniscalco.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
And Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried with Dingfelder being absent at vote.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. I'm happy to move this resolution. I was happy to move this resolution. There are very many people within the city of Tampa that have missed Stageworks in operation during this COVID time, and I know that there are many people wanting to get back to quote-unquote work there. Ms. Karen Busey and Mr. Tom Scarrett, two people that not only direct plays but perform there, and I cannot wait to get back to see some. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Item number 6.
Item number 6 is our last cultural COVID grant. This one is in downtown. It is $264,114. This is a second grant. The History Center came back earlier with a smaller grant, and this is a follow-up grant now that they have all their figures. This would be for the tenant space for the Columbia in order to improve, again, the air circulation and disinfection of that air in their tenant space at the History Center.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Motion been moved by Mr. Citro, second by Mr. Miranda. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Viera.
Yes.
Goode.
Yes.
Dingfelder. Maniscalco. Carlson. Citro.
Yes.
And Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried with Dingfelder and Carlson being absent at vote.
Item number 7.
Item number 7, we have a development agreement between the City of Tampa, the CRA Board, and K-Force, whose current location is on Palm Avenue, just east of Nebraska. That property includes the building that is K-Force, the parking lot behind it, and then going off to the west towards Nebraska is a large vacant parcel of land. The K-Force group is looking at selling that property. They will remain there, but they will become a tenant, and they are looking to sell the property to another LLC. That LLC and K-Force is now requesting an assignment of the rights to that development agreement. At this time, the only request is for change of ownership, and if you have any particular questions about this, Mr. Massey is happy to answer those.
Any questions, gentlemen?
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Maniscalco has moved it. Mr. Citro has seconded. Discussion.
May I speak?
Yes, sir, Mr. Miranda, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just want to go back and give a little history, if I may. K-Force at one time was in Hyde Park, and during the Greco administration years back, they had been offered a real sweetheart deal to move the company to Orlando, if I recall. And under that administration, the Greco administration and council at that time, we thought it was necessary to keep somebody here, and we worked on an agreement for them to move to Palm Avenue. And they were one of the first to start that movement and start the rehab program of bringing businesses where they could have jobs and people could have an influx of capabilities of helping the economy in not only Hillsborough County, but in Ybor City and the rest of the city of Tampa. And that's how they got the location where they're at behind the Centro Asturiano Club. So I want to thank K-Force and the city for working out so diligently years past, and something that has been a win-win for both sides. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. I think we have a motion on the
Before you
floor.
move on real quickly, there's a substitute resolution that I submitted to you all yesterday afternoon. I believe the clerk has it to correct the legal description of the property that's subject to that development agreement. So if you could move that.
Move the substitute then.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Citro. Roll call.
Viera.
Yes.
Goode.
Yes.
Excuse me. Dingfelder. Maniscalco.
Yes.
Carlson. Citro.
Yes.
And Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried with Dingfelder and Carlson being absent at vote.
We just have to receive and
Right.
file the rest.
Receive and file.
Move
Motion.
to receive and file 8 through 11.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Citro. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Viera.
No, just kidding, yes.
Goode.
Yes.
Dingfelder. Maniscalco.
Yes.
Carlson. Citro.
Yes.
And Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried with Dingfelder and Carlson being absent at vote.
Ms. Van Loan.
Item number 8 is the West Tampa CRA has developed what we're dubbing a neighborhood enhancement grant. This grant is up to $10,000 for neighborhood associations or other neighborhood groups to come in and apply for small beautification grants, whether that be planters or landscaping or other ideas that they may have. And this is already partially funded in our special events line item. So at this time, we are requesting just the approval of the program. You have received in your backup of materials a copy of that program and the cover memo from Jesus Nino.
Motion approved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Citro. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Viera.
Yes.
Goode.
Yes.
Dingfelder. Maniscalco.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
And Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried with Dingfelder being absent at vote.
Item number 9.
Item number 9 is the final draft of the Drew Park Strategic Action Plan update. It did get adopted by their CAC, and I will ask to bring up Neil Strelo, who was our consultant on this project, to give you a brief overview and answer any questions about the plan.
If you can bring up the presentation, please. Guess we're up. Before Neil comes up here, just want to give you a brief little quick update on the strategic action plan for the Drew Park. Staff is requesting today approval of that final draft of the Drew Park strategic action plan update, which was approved by the Drew Park CAC at their March 2nd, 2021 public meeting, which was regularly scheduled. This process started about a year ago in March of 2020. Neil Strelo was VHB Consultants. They're a continuing service provider for the city. They were chosen back then to proceed with this. Unfortunately, COVID was hit, and that's when institutions, the city, and a lot of businesses started to kind of slow down, send individuals home. So the process became a lot more difficult and it stretched out a little bit longer. So we had to become creative and do a series of virtual meetings, basically go-to meetings, team meetings, surveys. And in addition, Neil Strelo and myself, we started interviewing individuals by phone, or I actually went out there. A few individuals I spoke to outside, very socially distanced, just to gather information as far as data collection phase. Then Neil Strelo, with his organization, they did all the technical parts. Here we go here. So basically, the strategic action plan is being updated from the 2007 plan that we had in place. And this one to take over for that and to stretch out to 2025 so that we can basically have a visual course of action on how to spend our TIF funds out there in Drew Park. Again, it was a lot of community engagement virtually, a lot of participation in those virtual workshops. The technical analysis was done by Neil Strelo and his team, and was that it kind of allowed us to drive forward that update. And again, the TIF dollars, this will give us a course of action how to proceed with that. I'm going to turn it over to Neil Strelo, and this is just some of the workshops that we held. We had 3 virtual workshops. One at Hillsborough Community College was actually in person. It was a hybrid. But in addition, we did have those series of phone calls and conversations with a lot of the business owners and individuals out there. I'm going to turn it over to Neil Strelo for his presentation.
Thank you, Jesus. Neil Strelo, Senior Planner with VHB, located at 501 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 1010, Tampa, Florida. We really appreciate the opportunity to be with you and to complete this SAP update from the 2007 master plan. The slide in front of you have a series of slides for your briefing this morning. Just to represent the context of the overall master plan and the materials that have been approved by the CAC. The slide that you have in front of you shows the major topic rankings. This was consensus items that both the CAC stakeholders and online surveys represented as key topic areas for inclusion within the plan. Working with us was Dr. Chris Jones of Florida Economic Advisors, who completed a market assessment for the district. The slide in front of you shows his summary that showed multifamily, office, industrial as having favorable conditions to project within the next 10 years. Within the district and see trends shifting to multifamily, professional office having some availability, and continuing in the industrial land uses. In addition to the market assessment, there were a series of updates of the 2007 planning assessments. Those included streets, transit, land use, regulations, law enforcement code violations, and TIF priorities. The slide in front of you represents a stormwater assessment that represents parcel areas that have higher level of probability and design criteria. You can see that stormwater continues to be a sensitive issue within the Drew Park and affects the overall redevelopment potential of numerous parcels within the district. Stakeholders identified a lot of concern and interest in street conditions, both from the occupation of public rights-of-way, where sidewalks have been improved and installed, and the overall use of unregulated parking in the heavy use areas. And so as part of our study, the images on the right depict alternatives that could be considered as part of public right-of-way improvements to designate diagonal or parallel on-street parking while accommodating sidewalk improvements and stormwater accommodation within the district. So these are really various techniques that might be used on a case-by-case basis within the redevelopment of public rights-of-way within the district. Another interest area that has been spoken about today in multiple discussions is affordable housing. The continued need for housing improvements within the residential portions of Drew Park. The city does own properties, individual parcels, and as part of our effort, we looked at potential townhome residential redevelopment of some of those parcels to identify the potential that sits within some of these publicly owned lands. In addition, there are numerous vacant parcels within the district, and really the cause and the focus should be to bring those vacant parcels back to use, whether it's housing or non-residential, to strengthen and get them back on the tax rolls, and some of the strategies are pointed toward that. Budgeting, we've been sharing with the CAC, the annual TIF tax increment has been growing. The bar chart on the top shows the dip in post-recession, but last year was 1.6 million and is being shown as nominally increasing to the future, but certainly coming into a good stretch of the second half of the trust. More than 68% of the budget allocations from 2007 to 20 have been in capital improvement projects, and the community is continuing to see interest to do that, along with affordable housing and continued safety improvements or program improvements to keep a handle on crime reduction. The last three slides are part of the recommendations of the report. They're key strategies that the CAC and staff can use in the future in the annual work plan creation. They represent lead agency and departments and a relative priority of high, medium, and low, and how what a status is, of whether it is ongoing or to be determined or a targeted date by which some of these should occur. The strategies are identified to be high level and flexible so that they represent all of the stakeholder input to date, but gives flexibility to staff to bring forward work program to the CAC and then ultimately approved by the CRA and the annual work programs. That completes my presentation, and just in closing would like to thank you for the opportunity to be your consultant on Drew Park.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, gentlemen? Any questions? Mr. Carlson, you're recognized.
Just a quick comment as we're thinking out, and one of the great things the mayor is doing is adding planning back to the city, and there are multiple plans going on in lots of communities, and we need more of it, and I wish we could afford more staff. Randy and others are doing a great job on all of that. As we're planning, we're also getting lots of feedback from neighborhoods, and this is not only a comment about Drew Park, but one of the things that's happening systemically is that people who are, have graduated from high school or college want places to go drink and have fun. That place in the 90s was Ybor City. Now Ybor City is becoming a community again, and the landowners and property owners are pushing a lot of those bars out. In the 2000s, they moved to South Howard, and part of it became a bar district, but the neighbors all around that don't like it. They never liked it. They wanted to get rid of them. Now we see a lot of alcohol license applications going on around Florida Avenue, Seminole Heights, Tampa Heights area. And so I haven't studied it, but my gut feel is that that's going to end up being a place. There are great restaurants there already, but if we don't watch it, that'll become a bar district. But somewhere in the community, we need a bar district, or we need multiple bar districts. Singapore, for its reputation of being ultra conservative, realized if they didn't create bar districts, their young people would move. Drew Park traditionally has been, I mean, in the last 20 or 30 years, has been an industrial area. And it seems to me like it is a place where you could potentially put a bar district. Some of the stakeholders there may not like that idea, but you know, there's property adjacent to the airport. The airport's been buying a lot of property, and others. And so I would just ask everybody to think about, if we want to keep our best and brightest young people, where's the bar district going to go? Neighborhoods don't want it in the middle of their neighborhood. You know, one bar is fine. You talked about the issue of packaged liquor, but people don't want bars where people are partying till 3 o'clock in the morning either. So where are we going to put it that is sustainable and not next to necessarily where people live? So not a question to be answered now, but just for everybody to think about. Thank you.
I think you make a good point, Mr. Carlson. I mean, when you look at it, you know, when I go to other cities with friends or whatever, they always say, we're going to meet at this location here. People go to a town. A lot of times we have a lot of fraternal organizations want to come here, and they want to know where do we go. So I think you make a good point. People don't want it in the communities. That's why I wrote them down. When you talk about putting package stores right inside of communities, it brings on a lot of bad things. But if you have a district to where that's there, people can go to. So I think that's well taken. Mr. Veer.
I would suggest, and I'm going to meet with the mayor on this, to make a new Tampa our new area for that. I think that's perfectly fit. That's a joke.
So crazy, man.
You know, you're the boy that cries wolf.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
One day you're going to want to be taken seriously.
Mr. Central, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Carlson, great points. This is better done, in my opinion, with AB sales. We can regulate AB sales everywhere in the city. And I have been making questions about proximity of bars within the area, hours of operations, amplified music, those type of things. I feel it's better if we go through the AB sales to regulate these sort of things. But thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. We put a motion on the floor for item number 9. We did? I'm sure we did. Okay. No, we didn't.
You moved and received and filed all memorandum, but you have not approved all the plan.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Maniscalco, second by Ms. Citro. Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Vieira.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Dingfelder. Maniscalco. Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
And Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried with Dingfelder being absent at vote.
Waiting on Ms. Van Loan to come back. There she is.
All right now, thank you.
It might make your 11 o'clock lunch date, man.
Good morning. Moving on to item number 10. This is the East Tampa CRA Youth Leadership Program. This was brought to us, oops, not the overhead, please. Not the, we don't need the, thank you. Can you turn down the PowerPoint? That's for a different item. Thank you. So for the East Tampa CRA Youth Leadership and Entrepreneurship Academy. You have a copy of that program guide. The East Tampa CAC is looking to develop a year-long program where we invite the youth of East Tampa to participate, up to about 40 students. It will help with life skills and giving them a path to a future and the development of our youth into strong young adults. It also has a community project that the youth will work on to also contribute to the improvement of the community that they work in. And the East Tampa community approved this program and the associated dollars for it. So we are asking for you to approve the program and reprogram the funds of $50,000 to support this. We will issue an RFP once the program is approved to have a third-party provider run the program.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Maniscalco, second Mr. Citro. Any discussion? You recognize Mr.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Pierre?
Chair. Just wanted to say just what a, I look forward to seeing this, program continue to play out. I think that one of the things we need to do a much better job in our city that we're, and a lot of cities need to do this, is just better investing into youth and better creating a path of upward mobility for a lot of our young people. I know a couple of weeks ago we talked in City Council on a motion I brought up on having a youth program, much like we have for the East Tampa CRA for other historically disadvantaged areas like University area, Sulphur Springs, et cetera. Just giving our young people hope, something that Councilman Goods always talks about so wonderfully. I think it's also consistent with an ordinance that we recently passed that, God willing, will see the light of day, the state certified apprenticeship ordinance, which really goes a long way in giving a group of folks, many young people, a better pathway to the middle class. I think that all these programs taken together, if allowed to work out, can really go miles for young people in historically disadvantaged areas, just looking for a hand up and just looking to have the tools to empower themselves to do better in life and have dignity. So I'm glad to support this. Thank you, sir.
Let me say this in reference to this program. It's about what you put in. And when you're putting in something, you want to see the labors of that work. And if the program is designed to where young people will be able to understand about entrepreneurship, understanding about their communities, and be able to build something in their community, that's going to be a sense of pride for them to always come back and say, I helped build that, I helped design that, to take up with slum and blight in my community. So if this program is geared, the way Mr. Massey has told me and instructed that it will be geared to making sure that they're uplifting East Tampa, they're bringing something that the people can see and can always come back and say, I helped build that, I orchestrated that, I'm all in favor of the program. With that said, any more discussion anymore? I ask we move the resolution. We move the item 10.
Second.
Ms. Miranda has moved it. Mr. Citro seconded. Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Vieira. Goods.
Yes.
Dingfelder. Maniscalco. Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
And Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried with Dingfelder being absent at vote.
Item number 11, our last item on the agenda for approval, is the reprogramming of money from Al Barnes Park. 2 years ago, when many of you came on new to CRA Board and City Council, you brought with you a lot of ideas that you heard from the campaign trail and from the constituents you've been talking to. At that time, Councilman Goods heard a lot from our seniors in the community in the eastern portion of the East Tampa CRA, asking for space that was dedicated for seniors so that they were not mingling with kids and they had a safe place for their programming, the need for cultural programming in addition to just recreation. At the same time, we had the folks at Fair Oaks clamoring, as they had been for years, for an updated facility and improvements to their facility at that area. When Councilman Goods got on council, as part of our budgeting process, the CRA Board adopted $1 million for Al Barnes Park. Since then, the administration has been assessing both of these requests and saw an opportunity to create synergy and an option for a regional solution to address the needs of both sets of constituents and what they were asking for. By increasing the potential land footprint at the facility at North 34th Street, we have the ability to create a full regional solution, and the existing site already has all the infrastructure and utilities in order to meet the needs of both sets of groups. Our real estate division in the past year has done a great job of negotiating with a large property owner just to the south of the pond at Fair Oaks and Caracas and Elliott. And they reached an agreement that would make economic sense and make it feasible for the city to move forward with such a regional project. Since the CRA itself does not generally support and fund vertical construction, they asked that we consider contributing to acquiring the land so that we can move forward with this larger footprint and with this project. If we can go to the overhead for a second. Can we bring up the overhead? I may have
They had it up before. Can we get it back up, gentlemen?
I'll keep talking while they bring up the overhead. So what we're looking at, there we go, perfect. So again, this is strictly a conceptual plan. The administration being prepared for various options and various footprints. So if we did acquire that land to the south that you see here, this is just a concept of what we could do with the entire area, including creating this additional facility that could help serve our seniors and more of that cultural aspect that had been requested. Again, this is just a concept. If we do move forward with this and we do acquire the property, then as soon as that deal closes, our Parks and Rec department would move forward with going forward with community meetings, outreach with the community, talking about the programming and the needs so that they could finalize an actual concept based on that group input. So with that, what we are asking is that CRA board reprogram the money of $1 million from Al Barnes Park to this regional solution at the Fair Oaks facility.
Any questions, gentlemen? Mr. Carlson, recognized.
Mr. Goose, you were the one who led the effort on Al Barnes, and I understand that Fair Oaks then came up and we all advocated for that too. I thought at one point that we were going to do both, but are you okay with us doing this, or can we come back to Al Barnes later? Or?
No, the deal with, I worked with the mayor in reference to Al Barnes. I met with the community, our seniors and our young people, and Al Barnes, they didn't really want to go to the Fair Oaks area because of some issues in Fair Oaks. But the bigger picture, the bigger magnitude to get everything, the senior center, the multicultural center, they were on board with it because that side is getting what they wanted. Yes, the Fair Oaks group was there and they had their issues, and we were able to get, like Ms. Van Long said, we were able to get everything. We were able to get a regional wow for everybody. I'm talking about for the folks as far as Grant Park. I'm talking about the folks Deep Jackson Heights, College Hill, the Ybor South, East Seminole Heights. This thing will connect to everybody because now you have all the programming there. You have an actual senior center that's going to be big enough for the whole East Tampa area seniors to be able to go, shuffleboard, be able to do what they want. No kids in that building. It's all for our seniors, what they've been asking for decades, could never get. And then you have a multicultural center that I praised the mayor who saw my idea, saw the concept. When we opened Mr. Vieira's new section, she made it clear that's something that has to be in East Tampa, where kids in those different communities can be able to go and have actual gymnastics and dance and step, and how to do step in the hot parking lots. That they could be there and have all actual, be able to get walk there or take a bus there and not have to be transported way out in a van to New Tampa. If there's any, there's hardly, Mr. Vieira, you know, there's hardly ever any space for registration. So for that community to have the magnitude, so for me, it's really a great heartbeat for me to see this project because everybody is going to benefit. But I'm going to be honest with you, I was very taken back. I was very heart-stricken this morning when I had my CAC chair talking about a doomed project. There's nothing doomed here, gentlemen. There is nothing doomed here. We are giving everybody what they asked for, upgrading the Fair Oaks Center. And now we're getting another portion to where we're going to be able to help our seniors and our young people to be able to get scholarships for dance and step, gymnastics. That's important to me. So I just say shame on my CAC to say doomed. Nothing is doomed. That's the problem with East Tampa. We're always hearing these type of words. I don't want to hear that. What I want to hear is progress, and we're making progress with the center. I don't want to hear about Fair Oaks anymore. It's a regional park center for East Tampa. I told staff that yesterday. I told Mr. Bennett, I don't want to hear about Fair Oaks. What I want to hear, we have an East Tampa center that's coming, that's going to be built for everybody, every child, every adult, every senior, every athlete who'll be able to participate with programming. The key issue is programming. You're bringing things that they've never had before. You're taking a building, that Penny said, you're taking a building that people in that park, there are issues there, to get them to knock that down, to put something that's viable there, to clean up 34th Street, bring up property values. These are the things that the neighborhood associations they're fighting and want. I'm in support of this, and I hope that my colleagues will support it when it comes time for the vote.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Citron.
My vision of this center, I've heard people within the area saying, I've lived here all my life. My vision of this center is where a child can grow up in the early stages of life, go through whichever, dance, baseball, whatever, and then when they become parents, can take their children to grow up in this center in their middle age. And then when they finally retire, they can have their senior center. So this center is going to last people through their entire life. I'm glad to see this going forward. I'm glad to see that you spearheaded this in one way or another. I'm glad to see that the city has recognized that this type of center is needed in East Tampa, and I will support this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We'll go Mr. Vera, then we'll go Mr. Maniscalco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, I just wanted to just salute the work that you've done for your district. You know, when you're a district city council member, you have, all 7 of us represent all of the city of Tampa. All 7 of us, you know, should have our hearts and minds in all parts of the city of Tampa. But when you're a district council member, I think you have a heightened standard and duty to fight for your district, because your constituents are going to come to you and ask, what have you been doing for the parts of our district that need help and that need attention? You have to be what we call in the Florida bar a zealous advocate for your district. You really, really do. I fight for a lot of things that benefit all of the city of Tampa, and then there's certain things that I have that unique role for District 7 to be their zealous advocate on a lot of issues of unique concern to them, because if I don't fight for it, no one else is going to have that heightened standard or duty of care that the district council member has. We have a position that no one else has in that regard. So, you know, consistent with that, I wanted to salute Councilman Goods in his work for East Tampa. You know, we see not only this senior center that's going to be forthcoming, but in the fiscal year 2021 budget, we appropriate, I believe the number was $18.5 million, I think the number was, for East Tampa park improvements, a recreation center, trails, and All Abilities Park for folks in East Tampa who have special needs, intellectual disabilities, autism, etc. This is a really big deal for East Tampa and for all of the city of Tampa, and that came about not only because we had an administration that is collaborative with City Council and wants to work with us on having gains in the community, but because East Tampa has what I call a zealous advocate who is very focused on progress for East Tampa in a lot of areas that have been left behind for East Tampa. So, Councilman Goods, I just wanted to salute you for that, sir. So,
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Maniscalco, recognized.
I also wanted to congratulate you and thank you for your efforts in bringing this to
fruition. I think this is a huge win that will serve generations of people in the community. I look forward to going to this community center. This is historic, the large investment. But I have to ask, why do we continue fighting? Because last meeting was rumors and misinformation and all this public comment for wrong information out there. So I'm glad that this is moving forward. I'm glad that you're doing this. This is going to serve the entire community and beyond. So I'd like to make a motion to approve it.
Second.
A motion, Ms. Maniscalco, second, Ms. Miranda. Any more discussion? Ms. Carlson, you recognize.
Yeah, just to follow up on everybody, say thank you for your comments. Mr. Goods, since you are the district area, I wouldn't want to vote on something without your consent. Because of sunshine, we're not allowed to talk outside this room, so I wanted to make sure to get your feedback. But thanks also to all the community members who asked us to support Fair Oaks going back year and a half, 2 years, and to everyone here who set up the meetings. And we listened to a lot of folks in the community who said they want us to rebuild and make Fair Oaks better. So thanks to everybody for doing that.
Ms. Vera, you recognize.
Leave it to the trial lawyer here. No, but I also wanted to say that, consistent with the idea that we all support and represent the entire city of Tampa, because I had, folks in my district go, that's a mighty big chunk of change for that part of the city, for a part of the city. And I strongly support this because, number one, this supports all of the city of Tampa. Number two, this supports an idea that everyone in North Tampa, New Tampa, East Tampa, West Tampa, South Tampa, all the way from Bay Shore to West Tampa, everywhere should support, which is that East Tampa has been left behind. It's been left behind for too long. It's been left behind for too long in so many ways. And this is something that when you help East Tampa in areas that have been left behind, right, catch up to where they should be with some, and I'm not talking about luxury. This isn't luxury. This is basic equity. This is basic. It comes down to dignity and respect for the residents of East Tampa. Folks there aren't asking for a Taj Mahal. They're asking for a simple center that allows their seniors to be able to grow, that allows their kids to be able to engage in recreational activities. This is a really good thing for all of the city of Tampa, because as a city treats its historically underserved and left behind communities, that speaks a lot about the moral nature or the moral compass of a city. You look at a city's greatness, it's not in the wealthy areas, it's in how it treats those areas that have been historically left behind. So in this regard, the city of Tampa, all of the city of Tampa, to me, is hitting a 1988 Kirk Gibson Series, World Series home run. So well done, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Vallone, I don't know when those designs come back after we approve, but I want to make sure that going forward that we just don't stereotype it's Fair Oaks, that this is a regional project for all of East Tampa, and in the future those names of those different buildings might be named something different down the line. But right now, to keep confusion, division in my district, I prefer the idea of this project just be known as an East Tampa regional project going forward versus just saying Fair Oaks, because the seniors and other people are getting upset thinking that they didn't get what they want, which is not true. We're getting everybody what they wanted. So I just want to make that clear to you and the administration. Let's stop just saying Fair Oaks, and we're talking about a bigger picture here as a regional project. There is a motion on the floor. Mr. Maniscalco, Mr. Miranda seconded. Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Vieira. Yes. Goods.
Yes.
Dingfelder. Maniscalco.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
And Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried with Dingfelder being absent at vote.
Thank you, Ms. Vallone, for your updates today.
We have one last item.
One more item? Okay.
I believe Mr. Dingfelder had the thumbs up. Maybe he has no video, but I'm looking for him, and I think that thumbs up means yes. So
We didn't have him. He's not on our screen, sir, but I see his thumbs up. But we didn't have him on our screen. So how you doing, sir? Yeah, Ms. Van Loan has something else. She's not finished. She has another.
Yes, from new business, as we mentioned earlier, the East Tampa CAC is requesting that we require our down payment assistants to only have to attend one set of counseling classes. The housing division is no longer going to be providing that additional set through Latasha Hicks. So if we do not, and HED has agreed to work with us to make sure that the counseling services that they've hired are providing and are responsive, and they are also in the process of hiring new housing counselors within our housing division so that they will be able to provide that hands-on service to applicants who come forward and make sure that they understand what opportunities are afforded through the various housing programs. So we are asking that we only require one set of housing services. If you do not approve that, we will then go out for an RFP to find a third-party provider to provide that additional set of classes.
Ms. Vallone, I don't have a personal issue with changing your concept. But for me to support this item, I want that missing link in the process. That is very key for success. There's no need to me going to a class and at the end of the rainbow, there's nobody to help me move forward, or I don't know how to move forward. Just going to a class to learn a few things, but yet I don't have that balance to know who do I go to for lenders, how do I get approved for lending, how do I do this and how do I do that to actually get into a home or a condo. That's the missing link. So if you're saying that we can look at changing some of that, I could be supportive of the day, but other than that, I could not support the motion on the floor. If one comes up to just have the counseling session, it has to be a little bit more in it to make sure people are successful.
We can ask housing to come back at your next meeting to present on addressing that gap if you prefer.
I prefer.
Sure, we can do that.
Anything else? Ms. Van Loan,
That's
anything
us
else?
for us. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. New business. Mr. Citro.
Nothing new today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Maniscalco. Mr. Carlson. Mr. Miranda.
One item, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I request that staff provide an analysis of how much time Mr. Morris Massey spends on CRA business over and above his Norfolk City business in billable hours or on the rate of pay and benefits, and whether or not this is being paid solely by the city or in part by various CRA.
I have a motion on the floor, for Mr. Morris Massey. It's been a second on the floor. All in favor?
Could you just explain where that came from and what?
I have not. I have just me, Mr.
Can we turn the volume up? I tell you, we can barely hear Mr. Miranda. Can you turn the volume up on him?
I'm not an astute guy in computers, so can I speak louder? Can you hear me now?
We hear you. Yes, sir.
Okay, what I'm looking at is I see more and more time that we spend doing more and more work on CRAs, and I'm not opposed to that. And so I'd like to just come up and find out what's going on in Mr. Massey's salary. I have not discussed this with Mr. Massey or any other individual directly in the city of Tampa. If that satisfies the council on the CRA, fine. If it doesn't, I understand that also.
So, Mr. Miranda, you're saying, I know Mr. Massey is under the city attorney and has a salary. You're looking to see if he has a separate salary? Is that what you're asking, sir?
Well, no, I'm looking at to see really how much time in the balance of his normal work duty does he spend on city business, and how much time is he taking up on CRA business. I see more and more on both issues coming up, and that department on Mr. Massey's position. I have never discussed this with Mr. Massey or anyone else directly.
Yes, sir. We have a motion by Mr. Miranda. I think it was a second by Mr. Maniscalco. Yep. All in favor? All right. All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Unanimous consent. Mr. Dingfelder, do you have anything? Okay, you hear us. Okay, I think we went through everybody. Mr. Vieira is out. I just have one thing. Mr. Van Loan did touch on a lot of my items about strategic action plan, so I won't make the motion on that today. I'll wait till she comes back and reference the action plan and the dollars and cents for that person who solely handled the action plan for East Tampa to make sure the duties are carried out. So I won't go into details on that one. And the marketing person has been talked about as well, and the manager, so she gave us those dates. I will talk about the money, interest money, and I'll have to pass the gavel to Mr. Carlson to make that motion. Mr. Carlson?
Yeah, motion by Chair Goods, second by Member Maniscalco. Can we do roll call?
And that's the reallocation interest to the rehab program.
For the East Tampa CAC, correct?
East Tampa CEC.
Viera. Goods.
Yes.
Dingfelder. Maniscalco.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
And Miranda.
Yes.
Motion
Motion
carried with Viera being absent at vote.
Anything else, sir?
No, sir, that's all I have.
Move to receive and file.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Maniscalco, receiving file, second by Mr. Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Move to adjourn.
See you at 6.
Is it 5 or 6?
Going down to the station just to meet a train to see my baby. You know I've got dead aim. You know I feel so good. Well, I feel